All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Special Recovery Unplugged Live, featuring submissions or artists who put in submissions for the Conquering Disabilities with Film International Film Festival. Going to
They've
be
been
at AOF
accepted.
this year. Accepted.
They
Thank
are
you.
official selections.
Official selections for the Conquering Disabilities with Film International Film Festival coming up this year at AOF. I am John from G1NBC Live, and we have Amy, the star or the host. How are you tonight?
Star might be pushing it a bit.
Well, you bring the stars to everyone else. How about that?
Oh, well, we had Cindy Cowan last time. That was pretty big. And we'll have Jeffrey Reddick, not next week, but the next week, who created the Final Destination series. Andrew knows those. Rebekah knows. They know who he is. Anyway, if you're old enough.
Tonight's fun. Tonight's fun though, because we have a good group, and it'll be the first kind of one where you have had like 3 or 4 people in at the same time and having a party. So it's good. Do you want to introduce the people that are here before we?
Yes. I will start with my cousin, Rebekah McAuliffe. The scripts that got her into the festival are Game Day and Golgotha. Andrew is his script, Wonder Drugs, got him into the festival. And Noelani's brilliant film, Slight, is what punched her ticket to this year's Conquering Disabilities with Film.
Nice. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
That was synchronous. I like it. What else has been new, Amy?
Well, I was supposed to find out if Letters to Daniel was accepted into the River's Edge International Film Festival on Friday. They moved it to supposedly today, and today they have moved it to tomorrow. So who knows when I'll be finding out about the River's Edge.
Gotcha. And where's that one?
But that one is in Paducah, Kentucky. It happens the same week as Indie Gathering, and I'm going to Indie Gathering.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of my cast is, and where a lot of people can see it. Yeah, Rebekah's we're traveling together. That's going to be exciting.
Oh, cool.
That's really cool.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I know. You come to the screening and to the award ceremony.
Me?
Yes.
Always trying to get me to come to 2 days instead of 1.
Well,
is the screening on Sunday?
I don't know.
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. No, I'll go. You tell me when I need to be there.
You put a lot of hard sweat equity into the film. You were the king of the key grip.
King of the key grips.
Mark loves you.
Hey,
he'll work with you anytime.
I lost 5 pounds that week. It was fun. Mark's a really good DP.
Oh yeah,
he just would name stuff, and it was his trailer was so organized it was easy.
Yeah, he taught you in a day, right? And then you were on it the rest of the time you were there.
Trained a couple other people.
Anna Maria, and I think it was you two who did, and the rest of the women. I couldn't get any of the other guys.
Yeah, Anna Maria did a good job. So how's everyone handling the current situation in the United States? Everyone doing okay? Staying safe? Having fun?
I'm an essential worker, so
kudos to you. Thank you for all that you do.
Oh,
what do you do that's essential?
I'm a bank teller.
That's essential.
So I also answer calls when I can. I help people out with their finances. But I mean, that's nothing compared to like the real heroes. I mean, I'm just a regular old bank teller. I mean, so, but on the bright side, I've actually taken up sewing. That way I can make masks. I've made like 8 different ones so far. I've made a couple frozen ones. In fact, I even have my little frozen mask. Oh, let me put down my tea. No, don't fall. Yep, I have a little frozen mask.
Very cute.
Look at that. Cool.
You're more industrious than I am. I've been writing. That's what I've been doing with my time. Writing.
Yeah, that's what I do at work when I'm not taking care of people.
I'm writing and wishing and hoping and praying for Hollywood to open back up. So
got it.
and we don't know. It's like Cindy said on the show. It's like we don't know what the protocols are going to be on set, but the article I read in Hollywood Reporter about a month ago was it was like it's going to be similar to adult films where you sign a rider where they make the set as safe as possible, but you are essentially, if you get sick, you get sick, and you can't hold them liable. So that's what they were talking about in April.
I've been reading a lot of I work in Hollywood as a script supervisor, and I'm a member of the union, so I've been getting a lot of emails from my local about different steps that they're going to be taking to keep sets safe. And it seems like there's going to be so many things that are going to have to be implemented, and there's going to be OSHA regulations and things like that, that it's probably going to be another couple of months before we really see like Hollywood productions up and running again. But I do know that non-union things, little Lifetime movie production companies and things like that, are starting to pick up now. So I'm curious to see how those non-union shoots are going to handle things.
Well, I certainly on my set want to be as safe as possible. I would want someone to take care of me. And and the great thing about working on Letters to Daniel as an independent film is I had Missy there. She is my co-writer and best friend and caregiver. She was with me through, if you saw the movie, well, everyone, look, I suggest you see Letters to Daniel at AOF when you come, because it pretty much another filmmaker who I had met at ICFF and who is also an animator who's been accepted into my festival, said it like filled in the blanks about me, what he didn't know. And having Missy there was crucial, because I mean there was a moment where I thought some very essential footage had been lost because the camera overheated and it wouldn't play back, so we didn't know if the footage was there or not, and so we had to shoot as if it was there. And I didn't know until the next morning when Doug, my script supervisor, kind of catch-all guy, is transferring the footage from the computer to the external hard drive and is able to tell me, yes, we got it. And when I didn't think we had it, I just like freaked out and started crying. And Missy said, calm down. I said, it's ruined. All the work, I was convinced all the work we had done up until that moment, the movie was going to be a failure because we had lost the footage. And that's what Missy was there for, to keep me from losing my shit, basically. But she was really good about that. But I wasn't the only one who kind of had a breakdown on the set. That my script supervisor has a condition, a physical disease. It's called Chiari malformation, and it's a neurological disease. It's where the spinal cord is crammed up into your brain, like, and he hadn't had his surgery yet, but he went through the night sleepless transferring that footage and making sure it was all there. And then when we were at the coffee shop, and then when we moved to Misty Parker's house to film the apartment scenes, he had a complete breakdown, like physically, emotionally, everything. And we had to find Missy. Missy was like the set mom. Anyone who had an emotional problem, Missy was there to comfort them and see them through. The set photographer was a high school friend of mine, Tim Druck, Andrew knows his documentary, All We Know Is Lame, which he saw at another festival. And when we did the scene where Amy finds out Missy's father died, he had a breakdown because that's how his brother overdosed, and that's how he found out about his brother's death. Somebody banging on the door and telling him, he gets jolted out of this sleep, and someone tells him his brother has died of an overdose. And so he had, right, so it was like, it wasn't just me, it was like something in the water. Everybody really had an emotional connection to the film. John didn't have no breakdown, but he was at a dumpster fire of a hotel.
I had a cot breakdown.
Yes. Yeah, you were sleeping in the middle of the night, and
I was going to bed actually, and or I was waking up, and Doug was just going to bed after he'd finished processing all those videos.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well, see you in an hour.
Letters to Daniel, the filming. Okay, so Missy says, why do you want to be on set again? Weren't you in hell? I said, not really. It was hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, emotionally, psychologically, whatever, by choice, because I'm telling my story, but I'm also directing. And poor Missy, every time she tried to give me a suggestion, I wasn't mean to her where everybody else saw it, but I would give her, she said I had major side eye. Like, she would say something and I just would give her, she goes, Amy, you looked at me like, drop dead, shut up. And I felt so bad. So what was originally supposed to be directed by me and her, she insisted that I take sole credit for it. And the reality is, if she hadn't been on set, I couldn't have functioned. She took care of me so I could do what I really wanted to.
You know what? You were also managing locations, and that was a challenge too. That added a little bit more stress to each day, and for different
like
reasons.
The first 2 days when we go there and we're locked out,
we got kicked out of a gas station parking lot.
Yeah, after being told we had it. Oh, I was so mad. But Tim saved the day on that one. He got us another location at the last minute.
Great, that's good.
Well, let's watch the Letters to Daniel trailer and then do some interviews.
Yes, let's do so.
Dear Daniel Craig, life did not always look like this. This marked a moment of triumph, a way of crushing an abysmal past and daring those with a stereotypical view of those with mental illness to challenge me on any front. To many, this was just a documentary. For me and Missy, this was our life.
It's like my skin is coming off. And my thoughts, they're racing so fast. I can't keep up.
I'm suffering too, you know. You're not the only one.
It's like my mind is coming apart and I can't get it to come together.
I think it's more than just that. Amy's been having a really hard time lately. She goes on these crying jags. She explodes without warning. She's so angry and so paranoid these days. She's not the happy Amy that I remember from Kentucky.
She thinks you're manic depressive. I, however, do not. I think this is something you've been obsessing on. I believe that it's all in your head.
Some help. I'll be okay. You do have a diagnosis. You have rapid cycling manic depression.
Dear Daniel Craig, Bipolar disorder and those that saw it as contagious sought to pull me under, snap me in half, break me down. Even those well-intentioned do-gooders who see therapy and medication as bad and wrong, who see mentally ill individuals as hapless and hopeless, they're wrong. I found hope in your work. A comrade in Missy, my rock when no one else understood. You two are my twin lights when this disease threatened to take me down. And treatment was what got me through. Thank you, Daniel, for your talent and your work. Thank you for everything. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle.
And we're back.
Yay!
It's very different having a group of people in here than just one.
Yes, it is.
Take over.
Okay. I'm going to introduce Mr. L. Andrew Cooper. His background includes degrees at both Harvard and, am I right, Princeton?
Yes.
And he's been a film festival judge. He knows his film history, and he's an incredibly. I wasn't talking about intimidated. I know when we first met, it was interesting. We were on a panel together. That's how we met, talking about the X-Files. Okay. You are a published author and an award-winning screenwriter. Your script, Wonder Drugs, is an accepted screenplay into the Conquering Disabilities with Film International Film Festival. What is it about, and what inspired it?
Well, it is about a woman who starts taking a new course of drug therapies for an unnamed mental illness. And as a result, she goes on a kind of hallucinatory journey that takes her through all kinds of different things, including a giant garden that she is dwarfed by the flowers, and a mall up in the clouds, and a live volcano that includes a giant aquarium and a tour of the planets in the solar system and all kinds of other things. And this whole journey is a way for her to find a more stable sense of self. And what inspired it, it actually went through a number of different phases before it became a screenplay, but what inspired it was basically my own experience trying to get my drug cocktail right for my own bipolar disorder. And that was an adventure. And so I tried to find a way to make the adventure entertaining for other people.
That is one way to put it, an adventure, when you're looking for the right drug cocktail.
Yeah. There were definitely a lot of ups and downs, to put it mildly. And I thought, well, this deserves some imagination. This deserves some color.
You didn't. Okay, I remember your pharmacist in the script ages backwards.
Yes, he does.
The story. Where did you get the idea for that?
Well, his name is actually a name for a deity, and given the power of pharmacists in our lives to control our drug access, I just thought that having him sort of apart from reality as we know it made sense. And having him age backwards is a way of having him come closer and closer in some ways to my heroine, to my main character. And as he ages backwards, he also becomes friendlier and friendlier to her. And so it's just a way of having them converge.
Okay. How does this script fit in with your body of work as a whole? And could you go into some of what your work includes?
Well, I do a lot of work with horror. This is not a horror script, but I do a lot of work with horror and a lot of stuff that's kind of psychedelic or out there. So the fact that this is full of hallucinations and kind of mind-bending scenes is really the way it kind of relates to several, at least of my other scripts, and to some of the novels I've published, and novels and short stories that I've published. I do a lot with things that are mentally unusual. So even though this Wonder Drugs is engaging more directly with mental illness than a lot of my work does, it's the way that it deals with psychedelic experience connects it to some of the more far out work I do in other genres.
Okay. You are a fabulous writer, but like many of the people who have submitted to Conquering Disabilities with film, you have challenges maybe some other writers don't have. How do these challenges hurt you? But on the flip side, how do they help you?
Well, like I said, we were talking just a few minutes ago about how are we handling the coronavirus and lockdowns and things like that. I have a pretty strong anxiety disorder and don't leave the house very much. So that has made being in lockdown pretty natural for me. I don't leave the house much anyway. So being very much a homebody, having trouble getting out and being a social person makes networking, which is an essential part of being a screenwriter and getting your work out there, a real challenge for me. But at the same time, it means that I do get to spend a lot of time at home writing. I just finished a new script today. So I get to focus on my work a lot and need to find other ways of talking to people and getting the word out there about the work that I do.
Okay. What would you like to ultimately see happen to your script, Wonder Drugs?
I would love for someone to make it into a big feature production that has enough of an effects budget to make some of the weird and colorful things that I've written come to life on screen.
Okay. And what is up next for you?
I wish I knew. I have been marking myself a little bit more aggressively. I've been working with Inktip and sending out pitches based on the producers who are advertising through their newsletter, and also putting some of my work up there and getting at least a few nibbles here and there. Obviously, I haven't had an offer. I mean, obviously, but I haven't had an offer yet. But I'm hoping that will come along sooner rather than later. I am not like you, Amy. I am not anxious to get behind the camera and start directing my own stuff.
I only started directing because I wanted to see my stuff made. And I only directed Letters to Daniel after shopping it to several independent directors who said, I can't do this unless I have 2 weeks. I can't do this unless this has too big a budget. It's too big of a cast. I can't do this for nothing. I can't, and then I also encountered men who had a certain amount of success tell me I had no business directing it, that I would never get it made if I insisted on directing it, and that I should only make it if God was calling me to. With our particular disorder, the idea of God calling me is a little disturbing because, oh my God, I don't
never know. It could happen.
So I will say AOF and Conquering Disabilities with Film, there will be opportunities to network. And I'm going to mention, and Rebekah will attest to this, the Dinner with Dell, which is offered by AOF. It's a small, it's like 12 to 13 people in Del Weston. And all you do is eat and network with everybody. It's small enough that it's not really overwhelming. You switch, seats, and there's like alcohol and kind of help ease the nerves a little bit. But Dell's there for you to pick his brain, and he knows a lot. And sometimes he'll even have a special guest. Like last year, it was Dr. Goldman. And he is a doctor billionaire philanthropist, and he has he has a distribution company. So, you know, I highly recommend. I know Rebekah can't come this year, but if
Getting
you
married.
two, you know, if you know, God willing, and the coronavirus doesn't do us in, I would recommend doing the dinner with Dell, because it's an intimate enough setting that if you sit with me, and I'll introduce you to everybody.
It's a date.
Not to mention the food is delicious.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a
Yeah, it
bonus.
was like at a steakhouse. She had lobster and steak last year.
Ooh.
Not too shabby.
He doesn't scamp on those meals. I mean, it's a pricey ticket at $160, but he says get whatever you want. And if you paid $160, you're inclined to get whatever you want.
Right.
Okay, moving on to Noelani.
Hello.
Hello. Your film was very moving, and like mine, it was very personal. You wrote Slight at age 17 and directed it at age 19.
Yep.
What is Slight about, and what inspired you to make it?
So, Slight is a movie about a man with a neurological disorder that affects him both physically and mentally. And it follows him as he ages throughout his life, and we see the effects that neurological disorder has, socially and financially and emotionally. It was inspired by my mother, who has multiple sclerosis, and you know, growing up as an adolescent and watching the struggles that she went through with security and not being able to work, and how that affected her self-esteem, was, you know, I had to write about that. So.
Okay. Even though you directed it at 19, it was another decade before post-production was completed. If you're comfortable, can you share with us why that was and what it was like?
Right after we finished shooting the movie, so we shot during the summer of 2012. This was, I believe it was around July 20th through August 10th, in that range, 2012. And immediately after we finished shooting it, I went into post-production. And I was super excited. I was like, I'm going to get this movie out while I'm 19. I'm going to be a young teenage filmmaker. And, you know, it was all super cool and exciting to me. And then I ended up going through what was probably the most traumatic event of my life. I won't go into too many details, but I was basically held hostage by someone who was a very dear friend of mine, and it really was a setback for my emotional and mental health. At the time, I was not treated for my bipolar disorder, and it really got to my head, so I spent several years not well, and I was unable at that time to work on the movie. So it took me, you know, I ended up leaving Austin, which is where this all happened. It's where I shot the movie, and it's where this event happened to me. And I moved to Los Angeles, and I got on medication, and I spent several years working in the industry until I felt stable enough to look at my film again. And that is why it took so long to finish my movie.
Yeah. Okay. Your film is very inspiring, but as with most submitters to Conquering Disabilities with Film, you face unique challenges. What are some of those challenges, and how do they hurt you, and how do they help you?
Well, I do suffer from both bipolar disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder. And as I said, I was not treated when I was making the movie. My film shoot is a pretty good example of the challenges that I face because of my mental disabilities. My shoot was really not easy, and I remember spending a lot of time on set and off set just crying my eyes out because I didn't feel like I could do it. And I do have a tendency to become very self-loathing when I'm not on the proper treatment, or when I'm not in therapy, or when I don't have the proper support of good people in my life. So obviously being creative in those situations is very difficult. And again, is kind of what led to me taking so long to finish my movie. But at the same time, you know, everything that I do is in regards to mental health awareness, including the projects that I do, the movies that I make. And so while it's hard for me to deal with having bipolar disorder and OCD, I feel like it gives me a really special platform to talk and start a dialogue with people who don't feel as comfortable talking about it, and to create more awareness of these kinds of diseases for people to become more comfortable in a world where we can talk about these things openly without the stigma. So I think that's kind of the balance that I get.
I know when I was going through, I guess, the healing process, because 21 years ago, this October, I was given a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. And I would say it was a good 10 years of getting on the right drug cocktail, going to therapy. It was, and facing and you know, you face stigma. Like, I lost my job when they found out I was bipolar, and I had bipolar, and they were not comfortable with me. And when I mentioned I thought something was wrong with one of the girls, I was in a daycare, and her father was very wealthy. Her father was very popular, but he only ever paid attention to the little girls, and his daughter was very sexualized. And this girl was 4. So when I made, this father's popular with the daycare director and the other teachers. So whenever I made a fuss about that, once they knew I had bipolar disorder, they used that to push me out. And I don't know what your experiences are like on set. I've never worked for a union production. I'm always in charge. I've always made my own films. So whatever I need, I can pretty much do whatever I want. But I know that a lot of people are not, like, when I cried on my set, I know if I did that at a professional level, if I wasn't able to get over it real quick, that there would be no mercy. I would be out of a job.
I have absolutely lost work more than once because I have cried on set.
Yeah. And even though it's against the law to fire someone for a disability, they will just find something else and say it's that, and then push you out. I think everybody here has had instances at work where we were not very taken care of very well.
Well, one symptom of the illnesses that I have is it's interesting, is very physical. I actually rock back and forth like this when I sit. I haven't been doing it on video because I'm just trying to keep my face in, but I sit like this, and I do it when I'm at work. So a lot of the time it's really easy for me to tell who's going to have an issue or not by the way that they immediately react to the way that I sit down.
Yeah, I stim, but it's usually like I fidget with my hands, or my feet move a lot. My feet just constantly move. I know I'm probably hypomanic or manic because I've got that excess energy that's got to go somewhere. And I've been on disability for a long time. I haven't been out in the mainstream workforce since I was pretty much since my diagnosis. It kept me from like working a regular job, and taking the thing about working in the arts, writing really played a huge part in my healing process. Letters to Daniel, Andrew and Rebekah know, started out as a blog, and then I pulled the letters into a book, and then I did a proof of concept documentary. The project's been around in some form, but through Letters to Daniel, I feel like I found my voice, and I was able to take my power back, where I felt like everyone else around me had taken it, or I had lost it because of what I was going through.
Yeah.
What is an ideal future for the movie Slight?
You know, that's a really difficult question for me to answer, because I've gone through such an emotional roller coaster about this movie. I know when I first wrote and directed it, I was so young, and I knew so little about filmmaking, and I was just like, I'm going to send this to the biggest festival, you know, and I actually did, because, you know, you miss all the shots you don't take, but obviously the film is of a certain, you know, level of quality, and it's my first movie, so I'm kind of just now learning where it can go. And it's been a big experiment for me, because I've never made a feature film before. I've never submitted a feature film to any festivals, and so I'm kind of navigating this process, and I'm learning sort of what festivals seem like the right places to go with it. I would love to see some kind of distribution. I don't know how realistic it is, again, because I've never done this before. So
I'm going to tell you, at AOF, one of the days will be a film market, and you will have the chance to pitch your movie to distributors. And if you can at all possible, drag them to your screening. That's harder to do because, you know, they're big, right? In fact, and they are very blunt. Whenever they asked how long my movie was, I knew it was too short for theaters, but I wanted distribution. My movie is 61 minutes and 33 seconds long. It's about 9 minutes too short for theatrical. But I recommend you submit have you submitted your film to the No Risk Fee Fest yet?
You know, I couldn't find it. I was actually going to ask you about that.
Okay, it's on, I would say, actiononfilmfest.com, and on their website is a link. It says No Risk Fee Fest, and it'll take you to the page, and you email a link to your movie and the name of the movie, and you're the director, and you send it to them. You don't pay anything up front. They review it. They get back to you within 2 weeks. If they deem it part of their competition, then you pay a $60 submission fee. It doesn't get any higher. It doesn't go any lower. It's kind of a medium price. And on Film Freeway, that's a feature film, and it would be you're pushing into the $85. So if you do Film Freeway, it's much cheaper to go through that platform. So go to actiononfilmfest.com.
Okay, and then where on the site is the link? Is it on the page?
It should be on the first page. It'll have a lot of links. It takes a lot to load up because there's a lot there.
Okay.
And that link is there. And you also have the option to go with Film Freeway, but I highly recommend the No Risk Fee Fest platform.
Okay, thank you.
And I recommend to you also coming to the Dinner with Del, because Dr. Goldman is also a distributor. So you could talk to him you would have a chance to talk to him about your film. And he's a really nice man. I was intimidated to go up to him because he's a very accomplished individual. Okay. So, but the first time I ever went up to him and talked to him was last year, and I've been going to AOF since 2016. So, okay. And I guess the next question is, what is up next for you?
Well, I'm not 100% certain, but what I'm trying to do is I'm working on another feature script. It's a psychological horror centered around post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm hoping to have that script finished in time for that to be my next project. It's just a matter of getting it done.
Okay, well, I'm going to move on to Miss Rebekah. Hello. You and I have known each other a long time. You're an award-winning and best-selling author and screenwriter. Your two scripts, Game Day and Golgotha, have been accepted for competition at Conquering Disabilities with Film. What are they about, and what inspired you to write them?
So I'll start off with Game Day. So Game Day is a short comedy. And essentially, the punchline is if girls watch Top Chef the way guys watch the Super Bowl, like screaming at the TV, carrying on, getting into arguments about the chefs. I remember it was actually produced into a short film, and I remember one of the improvised lines, because there's a scene where the boyfriend walks in on the two girls. The boyfriend of one of the girls walks in, and the two girls are arguing, and he's like, "Are you guys okay?" And one of them shouts, "Go play Fortnite, bitch!" And it was improv, completely off the cuff. So I feel like it's a very fun story. I wrote that one. So, my then boyfriend, now fiance at the time, now fiance, he and his friend were wanting to make skits on YouTube. And he calls me and he's like, "Hey babe, you're a writer. Do you know how to write scripts?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." "Okay, love you. Bye." "Amy, I don't know how to do this. Help. What have I gotten myself into?"
Yes.
That is a true story, by the way.
What about how about Golgotha?
So Golgotha is a TV pilot based on my book, Gears of Golgotha. It is a steampunk dystopia series. If you're a fan of Shadowhunters, Avatar: The Last Airbender, basically in this distant future, society is divided into two castes. You have mages that practice magic, and chemists that are your traditional scientists. Never the twain shall meet. Until there's a chemist who, surprise, surprise, can do magic. And yeah, the word Golgotha actually comes from the Golgotha Project. That's in the series. That whole world, New Pangea, is tied together by the gears, and there are these large machines that orbit the Earth that power the entire planet. So she is recruited to be part of a government project that basically maintains and protects the gears.
Okay. You wrote your first novel 6 years ago, your first screenplay 3 years ago. Which form do you like writing more, and why?
You're gonna make me pick? Here's the thing is that they're both so different that I really can't pick. That I will say that screenwriting has helped me so much with dialogue. One of the complaints that I mostly got with my first book was that the characters didn't really have room to develop, and I won't lie, the dialogue wasn't that great. It was definitely one of my weaker points, because I'm sure we'll get to it later, but I'll go on ahead and say it. I have bipolar disorder, PTSD, and I'm also autistic, so social skills are nil. I have no social skills to save my life. So that kind of really is a challenge for me, like figuring out how do people work? How do characters work if I can't read people for crap? But with screenwriting, I mean, dialogue is where there's this one writer, I can't remember who it was, who said that dialogue is where the art comes in. So it was through screenwriting that I was able to have my dialogue snappy and sharp, and being able to make the characters come to life through that. So I do love being able to be descriptive with novel writing, but with screenwriting, I love being able to play around with the dialogue.
Okay. As you touched upon this, as with most people who seek out conquering disabilities with film, you have challenges that force you to cope in different ways. How do these challenges both hinder and help you in your writing?
So the reason why I smiled when you were talking about rocking back and forth, Noelani, is because I actually do that too. As part of my autism, I'll also kind of twist my hands. Normally, sometimes when I'm talking, I'll do this or that when I'm really excited. So that made me happy. So thank you for that. So the so with bipolar disorder, I tend to when I have really, really bad manic episodes. Um, and that impacts my relationships with other people. In fact, there was a manic episode that I had where I attempted to make 2 short films in 2 weeks. I'm not kidding. 2 short films in 2 weeks. I attempted to make a short comedy and a short documentary. Now, Game Day was actually that comedy, so that I was actually able to save that. The other one, I'm pretty sure I lost a lost a couple professional contacts with that one. Um, and so that kind of it sucks. I'm not gonna lie, it's not it sucks. It does suck sometimes when because I hate to sound like a whiny teenager, like like an emo teenager or
You
whatever.
don't. You're in friendly company here.
Well, it's like people just don't understand it. They and
No, they don't.
I never use my diagnoses as an excuse. I like to say that this is context. Like, oh, why is she rocking back and forth on set? Oh, why is she not making eye contact with me? Why is she taking those pills? Like, that's just I just do what I do. um, but but it does make it harder for me to network. It also hinders the creative process too, especially for darker projects. Um, it can be triggered. Like even the art you work on can trigger you. So it's like, great, I just wrote a really traumatic scene. Time to cry for a week.
You're among Conquering Disabilities with film people. You're among friends, and you know everybody at AOF loves you.
Oh, I cope by making jokes. That's how I cope. Is basically I'm roasting myself. So, um, but that's just how I cope. And if I make anybody uncomfortable, please let me know because again, I can't read people for crap.
You're fine. You're fine.
But
I wouldn't have roomed with you at at a couple of AOFs if you were a problem. You're just being you.
But I know it sounds weird, but it does help with the art too because you think about you feel more passionate to tell stories that you want to tell. One thing that I love to do with my stories is representing people that normally aren't representing populations that normally aren't represented. So that includes mentally ill, those with physical disabilities, LGBTQ characters, racial diversity, where it's like I never really saw anybody that was like, oh wow, that's me. Really, even until recently. Like Demi Lovato, she has bipolar disorder and has battled eating disorders and addiction, and she's such a strong artist and a great role model. One of my favorite series on TV is The Good Doctor, and it's got Freddie Highmore, and it's about a surgeon resident who I think it's a surgeon resident who has autism and how he's able to how he's able to deal with these situations, like not in spite of his disability, but like even his disability sometimes it helps him. Like he thinks in pictures, and one of the coolest effects with the show is that they'll actually on the screen like pull up like diagrams and like models of the human body, pages, so it's like you're seeing what he's seeing, and I love those scenes. I love The Good Doctor. So that's my goal when I create my art, is that there's someone out there who normally doesn't see themselves like in art, and I want to be the one to be like, hey, here, like that one song from The Greatest Showman.
Okay. How do Game Day and Golgotha fit within the context of your body of work as a whole?
So Game Day is I don't really have a brand per se. Mostly it is representation. And so game day is kind of an anomaly. Where but goodness, my apologies, I have a slight stutter too. Um so Golgotha also has racial diversity. 3 of the central characters are LGBTQ. 2 of the central characters are racially diverse. There's also and then goodness, my apologies. So it's about saying, hey, what can I do to represent people, like real people?
Well, maybe that's your brand, representation.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm wanting to go back to school. I would love to do my master's thesis on representation in media. That'd be a great thesis, I think.
I think so too. And what's up next for you?
Well, so I've been saying Alpha's coming. So Alpha is the novel I've been working on for the past 6 years. I will say I first signed the contract when I was in college, but it was also like right before I was truly I've got my triple decker what the crap sandwich, as I like to call it. Where I was actually like dying, like, because they've been bouncing back and forth between generalized anxiety disorder, bipolar 2. I wasn't diagnosed with those 3 until 2016, but I'd signed on with a contract for that book while I was a full-time student in college, taking about 18 credit hours a semester every semester, which is a bit nope, never doing that again.
Didn't you have 3 publishing houses buying for that book?
Oh yeah, that was a thing. I forgot. But yeah, and then so I was that and then yeah. So Tony's been very, very understanding. I was in college dealing with mental health issues, but now that I'm stable, I'm actually hoping to have this done in the next couple weeks.
Oh.
Finally, I'm taking myself to friggin' Olive Garden. I will get Olive Garden curbside and buy a bottle of wine. I'm gonna chug that bottle of wine. So once that's done, I want to kind of do something different with the book trailer for it. I'll do kind of something small with like iMovie for like just general like, hey, book trailer. But one of my long-term goals with that story, I should probably give a little brief history of what it is. It's about a army veteran who comes home after being deployed for several years in Afghanistan, and he is blackmailed into joining the notorious Project MK Ultra. So it deals with like conspiracy theories, and like themes of like loyalty, the nature of choice, agency versus passivity, and also those scenes were kind of triggering for me too. So it's like, oh, I just killed off a character I really liked in a very gruesome fashion. Time to cry for 2 weeks. But I mean, I needed to do that in order for the story to move forward. But that story is very close to my heart because I've been working on it for so long. And once that's done, so one of my goals is to actually option that into a feature film. I want to get that made into a movie so bad. Like, I want Chris Hemsworth to be my Howard Turner. Chris Hemsworth, I want Daniel Craig, or Chris Evans. I want Jack Black as Teddy. I want Idris Elba as Joel, Howard's commander.
This is gonna be an expensive movie.
Yeah. And Mark Shepard as Howard's brother Rob.
Okay. Now on to the round robin. You each get a chance to answer these questions. So starting with Noelani, what drew you to the Conquering Disabilities with International Film Festival?
Well, like I said earlier, this is the first time I've ever made a feature film or submitted it to anything. And so I really tested the waters with submitting to some bigger festivals. I started with South by Southwest, which I didn't get in time. And I submitted to festivals of that level, and I was realizing that I wasn't getting into any of them. And I decided that I needed to take another avenue. And I thought about, okay, what is my movie about? I need to look at some things that are more deeply connected to the actual message of the film. And I started looking up festivals that were related to mental health and disabilities and things like that. And I found your Festival on Film Freeway, read through the page, and it sounded like a really perfect platform to meet some other people who were like-minded and share this project.
Yeah, I really have Dell and Teresa Weston to thank for that. They established the Founders Award for me, and
Okay.
And he said it was because I reminded him of him, reminded Dell of himself, and the idea was to run a festival which served a marginalized community, which I was a part of. And that had always been a dream, to start a festival, and they gave me that platform. So I'm happy that you found it. Guess question to you, Andrew.
Well, as you mentioned before, you and I knew each other from festivals and conventions and things like that. So I heard about the convention from you. But I also got to say, Conquering Disabilities through film is kind of what I do. I mean, the screenwriting is how I absorb both my time and my angst. So it made a lot of sense that way, and particularly for the script that I submitted, Wonder Drugs. It's very much about a woman trying to cope with her disabilities in ways that I have myself, and so it just seemed like a perfect fit. So I was very happy to be able to submit my work to this new festival.
Well, it's a brilliant script, and your film is wonderful too, Noelani.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Rebekah, same question.
So I've known you for years, and you were always there for me. You actually, I wouldn't, if it wasn't for meeting you, I would not be, Gears wouldn't be a thing, Alpha wouldn't be a thing, I wouldn't even be writing professionally. Like I'd still do it as a hobby for sure, but I wouldn't have gotten in, or at least gotten in when I did. So I love the message that Conquering Disabilities with Film has, and how it's a platform for artists and filmmakers with disabilities. And it's also my way, my way of being able to support you and support your festival is, and I won't lie, I was a little kind of hesitant at first, because I didn't want anyone to think, oh, well, Rebekah only won because she's related to the director. And
look, the only thing I did was qualify your script. I kicked it down to other judges for the final decisions.
Yeah.
I'm like I'm the first gate, right? I read it, and if it's quality, you've placed and won several competitions with Game Day, the script. So, it's solid. And Golgotha, when I read through it, there wasn't a single solitary mistake in it. And I was like, God, it just blew my mind, because you're in your 20s, and I was struggling with my illness in my 20s. I could not function. I was not functioning at that time.
I'm very shy about receiving compliments. So,
okay.
So that's why I kind of did that number. But
okay. Next question. Do you plan on attending Conquering Disabilities with Film as part of the AOF MegaFest? And I'll start with Andrew.
I sure hope so. I mean, one never knows with the virus and everything, but it's part of the plan. We've been planning on it for a long time.
Okay. And Noelani?
Yeah, assuming that the pandemic doesn't, for some reason, alter the schedule or stop it from happening, my plan is to be there.
Okay. And Rebekah?
So if there's any online events, I would definitely want to participate in that. But I'm actually
You tell them why you're not coming, though.
Well, I'm getting married this year. My fiance, has been so supportive of my art, of my filmmaking. He actually proposed to me at AOF MegaFest last year on the red carpet, right after I won several awards that night. And he was sneaky. He and Dell and Jeffrey, who's the head of Script Summit, which is a different festival, they were planning this. And so that night, it was after the ceremony. I was like, yay, I won awards. And Jeffrey was like, hey, Matt, Rebekah, I need you to come over here. And then I was like, okay. And I thought that he was introducing me to a manager. So I'm like, okay, game face time. Game face, everyone. We got this. So he was like, okay, now go, Rebekah, go get your cousin. I'm like, what? I'm like, go get your cousin. I'm like, okay. So I asked Matt, so I had my awards and I went back and I was like, Amy, Jeffrey's requesting your presence on the red carpet. So I walked back and and she comes back and Jeffrey takes his phone and he holds it up like he's taking a picture, and I didn't want to be like this in the picture holding my awards. So I turned to my friend to hand off the awards to him, and I turn around and there's Matt on one knee with the ring.
It is very sweet. Jeffrey recorded the whole thing, posted it to Facebook, and I've got a picture of it actually happening. On the Film Freeway page, there's a picture of her being asked.
Aww.
She went down on her knees, so she was on the floor, and so there's a picture of Matt and Rebekah in that moment on the Film Freeway page.
It's very sweet.
But we are planning on honeymooning in Las Vegas, so I'm hoping to be like, maybe like poke my head and be like, hi Del, hi Teresa, or like, hi Kelly, and just be like, hey, let's get lunch or something. I don't know what honeymoons are.
Okay, this is to Andrew and Rebekah. How has your previous experiences with AOF affected your decision to participate in this festival?
Do you want to go first?
Either one of you can jump in.
Do you want to go first, Andrew? Do you want me to go first?
I guess I'll go first. I don't have as much experience, I think, as you do, Rebekah. I just got a really good impression when I went with Amy to support her when she went, and I guess that was 2016.
Yeah.
And just everybody was very friendly. I met a lot of nice people, and so it seems like a really welcoming and supportive atmosphere. And I submitted one script to AOF before that was a selection, and so I wasn't able to attend that year, but it was a very supportive experience as well. So it just seems like a great atmosphere to have one's work evaluated and hopefully supported going into the future. So I'm optimistic and excited about going there this year.
Rebekah?
So I actually went with Amy to AOF in 2017, and that was amazing. Everyone was so welcoming and affirming, and it felt like I was actually not judged based on my I like to call it my stuff. I was actually told at my day job once that I don't work for these people anymore. They'll remain nameless. But they actually outright called my diagnoses excuses as to why I would have to go to the break room and decompress so often. I will say I was at a restaurant, so I was a waitress, so
that is a hard job for anybody. And when you're talking about something like what we deal with, it becomes exponentially harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, try sensory. I have really bad sensory processing issues. So, I mean, the scratchy outfits, the scratchy aprons, the sound that's like of like grilling, of the grill going, the plates clashing on each other, the dishwasher going, and sometimes it'd just be too much. And I would have to go to the back and decompress. And I had that manager tell me I was making excuses, but I never got that vibe when I was at AOF. Dell was the first moment I met Dell. I think I was like, "Hello, Mr. Weston, nice to meet you." Because I was raised to not call people by their first name unless I'm given express permission, which is why I referred to you as Miss Lee. I think I called you. I called you Mr. Cooper before, right? Or Dr. Cooper?
I think you started off by calling me Dr. Cooper, yes. But,
yeah, Dr. Cooper. Like, I think I said Mr. Cooper, and then I found out you had a doctor. And I was like, oh, sorry, Dr. Cooper. But I was taught not to call anybody by their first name unless I've been given express permission. And Dell pulled me into a hug and said, "Call me Dell." So I got that vibe. So I know, and me knowing Amy for so long, I know it's gonna be the same thing at her festival.
Okay, this question is for Noelani. Why this festival? Why now? You've kind of touched on it, but if you want to expand on it a little.
Well, like I said earlier, I really want to highlight mental health and invisible disease awareness with my projects. And when I first directed Slight, I felt like I was riding this train and I had so much momentum, and in my head I was going to do so much over the last several years that happened to fulfill that goal. And when it didn't happen, it was kind of devastating for me. And now that I've finished my movie, I'm reinvigorated. I have, kind of rekindled my desire to sort of get out there and stand up and talk about these things. And so that's why now, the movie is finished and it's time to put it out there, and it's time to put myself out there.
Okay. And then all of you, what do you hope to gain from your experience with Conquering Disabilities with film? And start with Andrew.
Well, as I mentioned before, I'm not the greatest at networking, so I just hope to get to know some people. And just talking to you all here, it seems like we're like-minded. We have things in common. So it sounds like you're building a foundation for people just by creating the festival. And so on top of that foundation, hopefully I can build some relationships and learn from people, and hopefully get something that might help some of my work to take off.
Rebekah?
So what do I hope to gain from I'm kind of a very humble person. I know that probably didn't pick up on that because of how talkative I've been. I just want a chance to be like, this is me, hi, and connect with people. And yeah, so just that sense of fellowship where people know, where it's like, I have crappy social skills, but that's okay.
Noelani?
Well, I too struggle with socialization. I like to think I've gotten a little bit better over the years, but it's not something that comes very naturally to me, and it can be kind of exhausting. I definitely have noticed, like in my career as a script supervisor, I've had a hard time like finding some of the better jobs, because it's so challenging with the kinds of things that we face, to put yourself out there and put yourself in a room with 100 people and talk about yourself and put yourself out there like that. But it's so necessary and it's so important, and especially when you're talking about these issues. So like Andrew was saying, and like Rebekah was saying, I think that it would be really amazing to get out there and to meet other like-minded people. And, ultimately, I just want, if it's just one person to see my movie and to think somebody gets it, like somebody understands that I'm not alone.
Yeah. I think that's the point of all our artwork. We want you that, and I'm going to tell you, that's what Conquering Disabilities with Film is for. It's to give you opportunities that maybe you wouldn't otherwise have, and as part of AOF MegaFest, the whole thing, even though it's like a 10 to 15 different festivals, it's definitely Del and Teresa, his wife Teresa, set the tone for the entire festival, and they are very accepting and very they just like shower you with this unconditional love, and in some respects, and sometimes that's all you need to keep you going when you're sitting alone in your apartment or in your house writing whatever the next screenplay is, picking what the next film is going to be that you're going to do. So that's the last of my questions. What do you have to say, John?
I would just like to say you assembled a great group of individuals for tonight's episode. I really appreciated hearing everyone's stories and hearing about your work. I wanted to thank specifically people that were watching us live on Vim and on YouTube. Thank you for the likes and the upvotes. For people on Facebook, I just want to give a special shout out to Danny, Jessica, Anna Maria, JD, Laura, Richard, Annabelle for not only tuning in, but taking the time to like and comment. We really appreciate that. So I had a question for you, Amy. The No Risk Film Fest, the No Risk Fee Fest. They can send, and what happens is you scroll down and you have to send an email to info at No Risk Fee Fest. They put in Conquering Disabilities with Film as part of that email that they send?
No.
Okay, it's not.
What you do is Action on Film. Go to Action on Film Fest. There will be an icon. They'll have like a little logo for No Risk Fee Fest. Click on that. It will break everything down. And then there's an email address on there. Put in the subject line, film submission, and the name of your film, and then put a link and put your name and contact information, and just email it to that address. And in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks or less, they'll get back to you with whether or not it's in a competition, and they take care of everything.
Right.
Take care of
My question was, how does that relate to your festival? Do they just mention that festival?
Okay. Well, I say no.
Okay.
I would say they take care of what festival it goes into. Like if it's in AOF and Hollywood Dreams, if it's already screening at Conquering Disabilities with Film, what it simply does, if you're accepted into the competition, you're being considered for awards at that point. That's what entering into No Risk Fee Fest does. It increases your chance for winning. And MegaFest is about validating their creators' work in many forms, and one of those forms is awards.
So if they want to be a part of your festival, you still recommend that they do what?
I recommend enter Film Freeway, filmfreeway.com/Conquering Disabilities Film Fest.
Okay. And then the website for the festival is conqueringdisabilitiesfilmfest.com.
Yes.
And all the information's on that as well.
And the dates, I don't know if they've announced it, so I'm not going to say anything yet. I'll wait to the next meeting, and then when I'm on next time,
the dates up there are wrong, but we don't know the new validated dates yet.
Right. I'll let Dell do that.
Right on. Yeah, so that's all I got. And I know we're going to watch Noelani's Slight trailer as we close out. So other than that, I would say it was a pleasure getting to meet all of you and hear your stories. I always appreciate the candor and the candidness with which you guys were talking. And I really do, like I said, a great group. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more and seeing more about the festival, Amy. So we're coming up next week, right? Next 2 Mondays.
Next week, the guests are David Foster, the animator director of Hypothermia, the screenwriter of the film, of the short script Afternoon, Drew Henriksen, and the director of a documentary called Lines of Sight, Steve Oldfeld. That will be the lineup for next week. And then the next week, we have a special guest with Jeffrey Reddick, the creator of the Final Destination series, and a lot of others. He's done other stuff too, but he's really famous for that. And that he was a screenwriter who kept control of the franchise through the many movies that I think. How many movies in the Final Destination franchise?
And I know 5.
5, yeah.
5.
He's written many screenplays, and his history is very interesting. So
cool, good stuff. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in, and thank you everyone in Zoom for coming in and sharing your story with us, and looking forward to seeing you guys at the film festival.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Good to
nice
see
seeing
you.
you all.
All right, everyone. This is the trailer for Noelani Lee's Slight. So we will see you next Monday.
You know what's wrong with you?
I can't walk.
From what I've seen here, it could be multiple sclerosis.
I didn't go into all this debt for college just to end up disabled.
You're trying too hard to see everything at once.
Just tell me, how do you feel about progress?
You will be happy.
Yes.
You're always hiding.
I'm gonna try and be better.
And when things fall apart, you let it ruin everything.